Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and I'm here to do another little kaiju photography thing. As opposed to my last couple of experiments, where I put a lot of emphasis on getting the right background or setting up scenes, I'm going to try something just a little bit simpler this time, something that might be a little easier for me to work with. I'm going to do something that's more portrait-based than scene-based, though I'm still going to try and make it interesting. So as you can see here, I've got a fairly modest setup. I don't really have much in the way of professional photography equipment, so I have to make use with some more primitive means that I have around the house. But I think I've managed to find some colors that will contrast well with my subjects, which are these three Rodan figures. As you can see, I've got the original 1956 Bandai Rodan, though clarification, that's just the design. This figure was made in '91. I have the 2004 Final Wars Rodan, and I have the Jakks Pacific Legendary Rodan. Now, why did I pick these three? Well, I want to get sort of a generational vibe, because we have three different Rodans from three very different eras. I think contrasting them will look pretty good. And I'm sure some of you may also be asking, why isn't there a Fire Rodan here? Well, first of all, I don't have a Bandai Fire Rodan. I have a Trendmasters Rodan somewhere that's in this same size range and is based on that design, but it's packed away at the moment. And even if I did have access to it, I probably wouldn't include Fire Rodan simply because he'd look out of place. These three Rodans, as you can see, have some shared characteristics among their designs, particularly in the heads. So I wanted to keep that sort of consistency across the board. And you may also ask, why am I using the Jakks Pacific Legendary Rodan as opposed to the NECA version? Well, the NECA version is designed to look like it's in flight, which makes it horizontal, and that also means that it would kind of disappear. But this Rodan, he's designed to stand up, like these two are doing. So there's consistency there as well. It'll be a little easier to work with. Plus, he's just a little bit chunkier, I guess is the word. There's more substance to him physically than the NECA Rodan, so he'll look a little bit better standing along these guys. At least that's the hope. I will get the pictures done and we will see how they turn out. I'll try these guys in different arrangements, and the next thing you see will be the fruits of my labor. Here's hoping they're adequate. So my primary takeaway from this venture is that creatures with wings present quite a few challenges because wings are horizontal. They have a lot going on from left to right and not a whole lot going vertically. So that presents all sorts of challenges, as you can see from my first picture. I attempted to arrange the Rodans in this one in ascending order of height, starting with the tallest one, the 56 version, going down to the legendary one. That required me to put the legendary one in the foreground, and the camera didn't quite focus on him, as you can tell. It focused on the other two just fine, they're nice and sharp. But Legendary Rodan, not so much in this one, which is a little bit frustrating. But that was just how I started. Of course, the thing is, I couldn't really tell he was out of focus at the time. It looked like it might have been okay, but either way, I decided to try a different arrangement. For the next image, I wanted to make the 1956 Rodan the prominent one. He's the original. Without him, the others wouldn't exist. So I put him in the center, and I wanted to have the other two Rodans flanking him. But like I said, dealing with wings here, that presents a lot of horizontal challenges. So I kinda had to put the other two sort of off to the side and behind him, and as you can see, it's not a terrible picture. The 56 Rodan is very prominent, and you can basically see the 2004 one, but the legendary one is tucked away in the corner almost like he's photobombing the whole thing, which, I mean, it's not quite what I was going for. So I shifted just a little bit to get him more into the picture, which kinda worked. The background didn't quite cooperate because I was nearing the edge of the surface I had to work with. It was a little bit better in terms of that. They were all relatively clear this time, but still
still not quite a picture I was completely satisfied with. So for the next one, I tried to center the legendary Rodan again with the other two behind him, sort of making him the prominent one, but again, he was out of focus, and I didn't realize that at the time. If you were in focus, this would actually be a really good shot, because I like the way the composition turned out here, as far as how the Rodans are arranged. If only he were focused. That is the one thing that's keeping this one from working for me. So I decided to try something just a tiny bit different. I found a way to prop up the legendary Rodan behind the other two to sort of make it look like he was in flight or taking off or something. So put him behind the other two and arranged the two bigger Rodans in such a way that it would obscure what the legendary Jax figure was standing on, which that much worked. And this is one of the better images I got today. For some reason, the 56 Rodan's head is just the slightest bit out of focus. Not too much, thankfully, but it is kind of noticeable. Otherwise, though, this is a really good one, I think. This got exactly the sort of effect I was hoping it would get. Though I have to say, now that I'm looking at it, the legendary Rodan's wing is casting a shadow on the background, which, given the stuff I have to work with, I guess was unavoidable. I do wish there was a way I could have gotten rid of that, but oh well. Besides that, I think this one turned out okay. And just for the heck of it, I decided to get individual shots of each one. Starting, of course, with the original. I cycled through a couple of different attempts. Some of them had too much space above the head, some of them had too much space below the feet. This one is the best that I got. He's centered, there's not too much space on either side, though I did crop just a little bit off the edges. And he's in focus, he's standing prominently. This turned out quite well. It's one of the best pictures I got all day, and I can't really see any major flaws with how this turned out. I also think that this is a good example of how he contrasts with the background, because I did choose brown for the floor, the surface he's standing on, which was a bit of a risk because this Rodan figure is also brown, but it's a different enough shade of brown that he doesn't blend into it. And I changed the background because this is also the background where I filmed the As Written by Shakespeare videos, and that's red, and I had two red Rodans. I didn't want them to blend into that, so I hung the gray back here, and the gray also contrasts nicely with this Rodan. The gold in particular, I think, really stands out on the figure in this one. And again, I got good results for the Final Wars Rodan, taking into account that there was, again, a little bit of cropping on the edges. He's standing quite prominently, he's in focus. I do think I made a mistake in trying to get a slightly lower angle of him, because I wanted to try and present him as at least looking kind of tall, but as a result, the horns on top of his head sort of disappear behind him, so it just looks like he's got a round head, which I didn't really notice that at the time I was taking these pictures, but otherwise, again, it's not a bad picture. The colors really pop on this one, certainly, and this Final Wars figure has a lot of color going on in him. He's got that nice, rusty, but still bright red. He's got the gradient yellow on his stomach, his legs, and the tips of his wings. The black just underneath his arms and on his beak. So he really stands out in this image. That much looks really good. As I learned in the last video, the smaller the figure is, the harder it is to photograph. And the Jakks Pacific Rodan was the smallest of the bunch, so he did present some trouble. I suppose I should specify he's the smallest in terms of height. In terms of width, with that wingspan, he actually rivals both of the Bandai figures. But this was one attempt I got. I cropped it a little bit, but again, his head was out of focus. So I tried another one. He's a bit more in focus in the second one, but it still turned out all right. Again, he contrasts nicely with the background. I wish he were just the slightest bit more in focus, because, I mean, his head is a little bit blurry, but his body is clear. Yeah, this guy presents a lot of complications when you try photographing him, so I want to keep photographing him because I think he's got some nice detail and far more possibilities for posing than the NECA figure, but I'm going to have to figure stuff out in the future. So I tried making things a little bit simpler. I still met a couple of challenges because I'm figuring this out as I go, but they are lessons I will take with me into the future as I continue this little journey. And if you happen to like any of these pictures, you can find them on the DeviantArt page. The link is down in the description. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, as well as subscribe to the channel for more content of a similar nature. Also, check the description for links to our Twitter, DeviantArt, and Patreon pages, as well as the Amazon link for the novel Operation Red Dragon: The Kaiju Wars Part 1, penned by yours truly. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.